Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Sports Exchange. My name is Scott Morgan, Roth the Motor City Man Mouth. Just had a great show on Pundits Pundit with my colleague Jacob Christner. Jacob, why don't you give an overview of what everybody had a chance to hear us talk about on Pundits Pundit, and then we'll get into
Oh,
the
we had a real good show. For anybody that doesn't know the Pundits Pundit, this is Brett's first time I've seen him here. Pundits Pundit's very much like a more advanced version of Outside the Lines, very much of a news magazine type of thing. We talked, and tonight we talked about the Brittany Griner coming home. We also talked about Kirsten Henning, that she's as someone. Kirsten Henning as someone who decided not to kneel and she's suing because they kicked her off the team. Then another one. Then another one. We had all kinds of different ones like that. We talk about those type of things, not just like regular sports.
Very good. All right. Well, let me give everybody an overview of the agenda, and then I'll introduce the crew. We will be talking about the late Mike Leach. I'm going to stand up for a moment and let you know I have a Mississippi State shirt on. I was able to go out there and buy that when I was in Tennessee. Every now and then I'll look for some interesting clothes on the clothes racks in the sports section. And this one popped up. I bought it. Now, never glad I did, because on nights like this comes in handy when we're talking about Mike Leach. So we'll talk about Mike Leach. Carlos Correa signed a very big contract with the Giants. Talking about the Washington Capitals and Alex Ovechkin, who's now joined the 800 club. And then we're going to talk about Argentina and France and Lionel Messi. You're going to really like that one. And the Heisman Trophy. And then we'll talk about the Detroit Lions, and everybody gets a parting shot. With that said, I will introduce the crew. Rick Curdy, back from another day over. But last night it was inside the pigskin. Welcome back, Rick.
Thanks, Scott.
And my pundit and basketball bros colleague, Jacob Christner. Welcome back, my friend.
Yo.
And the new guy on the block here, Brett Gardepy, who I met through Empire Sports Network, and he resides in Wisconsin and also is on Fire Up Wisconsin with Candy. Welcome to the Sports Exchange, Brett. Now you've been inducted into the club.
So I'm glad to be here.
And the creator, my co-creator of the Sports Exchange, George Eichhorn. Welcome back.
Good to be here, Scott. Thanks for having me.
All right, well, you know what? We have a busy agenda, so let's get right to it. Mike Leach, still hard to believe that he died Monday at the age of 61 due to heart disease. His air raid offense revolutionized college football. Mississippi State will still play in its July 2nd ReliaQuest Bowl game against Illinois. Defensive coordinator Zach Arnett has actually been named the permanent replacement head coach, and this game is in Tampa, Raymond James Stadium. Ironically, a pirate ship is in there. I know that was Coach Leach. His primary thing is he liked the Pirates. So, Rick, put into perspective about Mike Leach and how badly this guy will be missed.
Oh man, he's an innovator. It's just sad because his press conferences are never about football. He'll talk about you should get a lope. He talks about what I think he had a comment saying. You know what irritates me more about people is people getting irritated all the time, something like that. He's funny, he's wise. Everywhere he goes, he wins. I was just watching some things about him earlier in the day, and he never played college football. He actually played rugby, and so I just thought that was fascinating. Like, wow, he never played college football, and yet he's one of those offensive-minded geniuses that we hear about. And he never played college football, so I just think that's amazing. That just shows how creative he was and what a genius he is, and he's really going to be missed. I'm going to miss him a lot, and I know wherever he went, they're going to miss him. But I'm still surprised and shocked by it because it happened so quick. I just heard he had a heart attack, and then all of a sudden he died. So he'll be missed. And never met the guy, but he seemed like a really, really nice man. And rest in peace.
Yeah, I hear he had a heart attack and they didn't get to him quick enough, and that led to seizures, which led to a lot of other things along the way. And before long, Coach Lee left us and went to heaven. So, Jacob, put into perspective about how badly Mike Leach will be.
Well, let me tell you this. You remember there's between my show and this show, there was times I was talking about how much these older coaches, they were innovators at one time, then they got old, and then they just stopped innovating. Mike Leach was 61 years old.
Right.
Which, here's the thing about it. When most people were getting 61 during the time they were just acting old, they were getting old, and they would stop innovating. They stopped all that. He never did. He's always trying to find a new way for his air raid offense. And then, but the biggest thing about it is I think it's really, really sad because truthfully, he's only being 61. he could have been a podcast monster after he retired.
Just
because of all the things that he could have talked about. Just like off the cuff, off the beaten path. You think of Bobby, bringing this up, Brett. Think of Bobby the Brain Heenan. Imagine him with a podcast, him and Gorilla.
Oh, that would have been phenomenal.
I mean, it would have been phenomenal. That would have been Mike Leach. That would have been Mike Leach right there. The phenomenon, it just off the cuff, off the beaten path, the fun, the hilarity, just the quick wit, all that kind of stuff that we can think about. We're going to miss that out of there. But most of all, his players love me. And not every coach gets that luck. And those are the things I think about all the time. And it's like, I brought it up on the Pundits Pundit. I'm going to say this here. We saw about Steve Keane, the GM of the Cardinals. He's going to take a break because of health. There's no question it's because of Mike Leach. So it's like maybe this is going to lead to something where we see more coaches do this, the older ones at least. And who knows, some of the younger ones could be too.
Okay, Brett, some thoughts about Mike Leach.
Yeah, you guys covered this really well, and it's definitely unfortunate what happened with Mike Leach. Everybody loved him. He was just as much as a phenomenal coach he just seemed like an even more phenomenal person. It's really a shame that you need 60% to win 60% of your games to get required into the NFL or the Hall of Fame there, and he has 59.6. Yeah. So that's really unfortunate. I kind of hope they make like an exception for him because he definitely deserved it. So yeah, just an unfortunate tragedy overall.
Okay, George.
Yeah, I do a annual article about the people that left us in the previous year for a couple of publications I write for, the Motor City Tribune, Detroit Monitor. That is one name I did not expect to add to my list. I was stunned. I was caught off guard. He reminds me of another guy from way back. His name was Coryell, Don Coryell, the coach. You talk about an innovator. Mike was like that, just like Coryell was. And Mike, you hit it on the head, Jacob. He had the respect of his players. They loved playing for him. They loved practicing with him. And he was always having a fun time, as well as, answering things about bigger than football, like you said, bigger than life, issues that pertain to life, as opposed to just gridiron X's and O's. We're going to miss you, Mike.
Well, I think the one thing that people have to understand is not only was he a creative, instinctual guy, had a heck of a sense of humor. One of the favorite lines he talked about is getting married. Just elope, be done with it, don't bother. And then he talked about when he dies, the obituary. I don't care what you're going to write, I'll be dead anyway, so I won't even have to worry about it. So, but he just always went out there and took things into perspective. And not only that, he left behind a really good coaching tree as well. So you think of Lincoln Riley, Cliff Kingsbury, Josh Heupel, the group goes on and on. So Mike Leach, rest in peace, gone way too soon. And it's just unfortunate that, and another thing I read today too, is he won't even be eligible for the National College Football Hall of Fame. He needs a 600% to get in. And I believe he's at 596. This guy took programs that weren't any good and turned them around. So, it's not like Texas Tech, Washington State, Mississippi State are considered glory jobs, even though they were in Power 5 conferences. So with that said, once again, Coach, rest in peace. Next topic, Carlos Correa. San Francisco Giants agree to a 13-year, $350 million deal. He's 28 years old. This contract, to me, compares or ties to Bryce Harper, 13 years, $330 million with Philadelphia. In March of 2019, Correa received a full no-trade clause and a contract without any opt-outs. Well, you know what? I know that he actually played for Minnesota a year ago, decided to wait for the market, and I think his patience definitely paid off. Well, we got some baseball people here, and none other than Rick Curdy. Give me your thoughts about the Correa situation.
Well, they struck out on Aaron Judge, so they had to go to their other backup and get Correa. So that's a lot of money, so they did win a World Series without him in Houston. So we'll see how valuable he really is. But I think it's just going to come back and bite him. When I saw that money, I know he's young, he's a great player, but that's just a little bit too rich for me. So Hope San Francisco enjoys it. No opt out, no trade clause, and I hope he brought his trash cans with him. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, you'll never let him live that down. Let's face reality.
The trash Stros.
Yeah, Scott Boras is one heck of an agent, and he paid off again, right?
He needs to be in the Hall of Fame. They should put him in the Hall of Fame right now, Scott Boras. He's a best agent out there. He always gets his clients way more than they deserve. So good for Scott Boras.
I'll turn over to Jacob.
The 13 years, I was bringing this up on Pundit also. The 13 years is, you hear this, you hear 9 years on coaches. You'll hear all these. This is the agents and lawyers talking. This is their world. It's like, this is what I keep saying to people, that agents and lawyers run all these leagues. They want the bigger, it's not necessarily the money, it's the years. Especially, you got to realize it's not going to be with the same team. Korea's not going to be there 13 seasons. He's probably going to be with 2 more teams, and someone's going to take on that contract anyway. So really, overall, I would have. The thing was, I heard that the Cubs were trying to give him 7 for $210. That's $30 million. That's $30 million. You can do what you can do. Really, though, the thing is that it's doubtful he'd go 7 years. It's doubtful he'd even go 7 years with one team. It's like it takes a couple of years before they wear out, or you don't know what will happen in that time. The ownerships, the front offices. How's the team? Are they going to tear the team apart by that time? And then you trade that off, and someone else takes on that contract. That's just what's going to happen with there. As far as the team goes, they're definitely going after there's no question they're going after the Dodgers. And until the point goes that they tear it apart, he's a Giant.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I agree. I mean, the reality of the situation is, when I look at contracts that size, Rick and I have talked about it a lot. The first 5-10 years might be all right, okay, but then the back end is really what kills you, right, Brett?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I always am shaky about offering somebody's like 28, 29, like a 13-year deal, because who knows how they're gonna age, past their age 33, 34 season. Carlos Correa is a fine player. I completely understand why they signed him. They ranked 23rd in the league in batting average. Correa happens to be a very good contact bat. He's very quick. He's a very good fit for what the Giants need. My issue isn't necessarily the short term. It is once we start getting into the back end of that contract. And I think it's going to get to a point where now if they want to get rid of him, it's going to require them parting with a young prospect, or they're going to have to get rid of additional assets to get rid of it. So I don't necessarily like it that much, but let's just hope that they can win early, because I don't think it ages well.
Yeah, I agree. All right, George.
Well, these are ridiculous contracts. I'm sick of them. These guys are getting way too much money. Baseball's just letting this whole thing mushroom once again. I lived through this with Cabrera and the contract they gave him here in Detroit, and he's just petering out the last few years between injuries and lack of production. It happened with so many other players. I mean, it's crazy, the money they're getting. And I agree with all you guys said. I mean, the back end of this stuff is just crazy. And Jacob's right. A lot of times these guys are not going to last with that team. They think they're going to be a so-and-so Giant for the rest of their career, a Detroit Tiger for the rest of my career. Well, Cabrera's he's staying here, so that's not an issue. But it's just way too much money, and teams are spending way too much. And I kind of feel sorry for a low market team like Minnesota. I mean, I'm sure they had hopes that they would be able to retain him for more than just one season, but it didn't happen. So the Twins are on the outside looking in.
Yeah, like I said, I'm not thrilled with these length of contracts. I'm really not. So to me, the Giants, I think sometimes what will generally tend to happen is teams will overpay certain players just to get them to go there. And I think that's one of the cases here as well. So, but, with that said, well, we had Jeremy Ballreich, who actually is saying no link. Well, this guy is the most aggressive individual on the planet. So I'm going to ask him if he wants to pop in for a minute. So, but meanwhile, with that said, okay, Washington Capitals captain Alex Ovechkin scored his 800th goal of the year via the hat trick on the road and a 7-3 win over the Blackhawks in Chicago. He's 37 and trails Gordie Howe 801 and Wayne Gretzky at 894. He was drafted first overall by Washington in 2004. I think what makes this really interesting, though, is this guy has played his entire career in one place and has scored 800 goals, okay, with the with the Capitals. So with that said, Rick, give me your thoughts about what Alex has done.
It's absolutely amazing. I mean, he's going to pass Gordie Howe, which that record was untouchable, and then it became more untouchable with Gretzky. I don't think he'll get Gretzky. He could. I don't know, because he did score 50 goals, I think, for the 9th time in his career, which I think tied Gretzky. But I don't think he will, but he'll come close to it, but won't be surprised. But what he's done is amazing. One of the greatest goal scorers of all time. First ballot Hall of Famer. He's won a Stanley Cup. He's done everything. He's made tons and tons of money, married, kids. I mean, living the American dream. And so he's just one of the greatest that we ever seen of our generation. So happy to see that. And he seems like a really nice guy. And will be interesting if he can catch Gretzky.
Jacob?
You were bringing Ricky brought up a really good point. Talked about how amazing it was. Let me tell you how even more amazing it was when Gretzky was and this is no slight against Gretzky. He's the greatest of all time. You know what I'm saying? So it's no slight. But when Gretzky broke that record, it was a completely spread out, high octane game. It literally, including defensemen, were coming in on the break. Everything like that. That's what they were. You had you had a couple defensemen go 50 goals. You'd have all this way more high octane. Now it's more set offenses. You have more set offense. Everybody kind of has a role to play. It's a little more slow. Mind you, it's still athletic. It's still all that. But it's not as high octane. You are planning out plays, a lot more plays, and he still scored 800 goals. It's still scored. And and by the way, when Gretzky started in the league and he started most of those, the goalie couldn't even sprawl out onto the ice. The goalie couldn't get out on the ice to make a save when he started in the league. So that tells you something. He's scored 800 goals with the goalies being this good.
All right. Well, guess we have a new person. Complete your thought. Jeremy's joining us as well. We have some good stuff. But go ahead and continue.
Here's a story of a man named Brady.
Yeah, that's all right. Go ahead. All right, continue your thought here.
I think he was all done, Scott.
Oh, were you? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you know what, Jeremy, you just got in the right time. Okay, we're what I told them. We have a few topics, and you definitely come in handy on a few of them. All right.
Okay.
Washington Capitals Captain Alex Ovechkin scored the 800th goal of his career via the hat trick on the road 7-3 win over the Blackhawks in Chicago. He's 37, trails Gordie Howe 801 and Wayne Gretzky 894. After by Washington in 2004, played his entire career. What are your thoughts about the magnitude of his accomplishment?
Well, how many players have hit 800 goals? I mean, that says the magnitude of it right there. I mean, he's an amazing player. He's been a great scorer. If he had a better team around him, the Washington Capitals would have more championships because he's that dynamic of a scorer.
Okay. All right. Go ahead, Brett.
I think what makes it crazier, too, is how quickly he did it. He did it in 182 games, almost quicker than Gretzky did. You know, Gretzky scored 894 in 1,487 games. He just hit 800 in 1,305. So it's completely wild, and it's just incredible. Third person only ever to get 800 goals, and I don't think it's completely unrealistic that he passes Gretzky because he still has 3 years left on his contract, unless he decides that he wants to hang it up and he's done. Before then, he still has 3 years to do it. The rest of this season, I don't see it as a very unrealistic jump for him. He's been absolutely phenomenal, and I don't really expect that to slow down anytime soon.
George?
I saw Alex play the Red Wings on November the 3rd at Little Caesars Arena. And what I noticed is, he knows his position, sort of what Jacob said earlier. He's a slot man, and they use him in that position, especially the power play. And I studied him well that night as I was looking down on the ice and covering that game. And that's exactly what his role is right now. And he's pumping those nets for those goals. He's a slot man. He knows how to do it. But one interesting thing I noticed also, a lot like Gordie Howe, Alex was physical. He used his physicality during his career. Maybe not so much now, but like Gordie Howe was famous for his elbows and taking the guys into the boards and checking guys. That's what I loved about Gordie. And Wayne did not do that. And Alex has been physical, not so much lately, but I applaud him for that. And that's one of the things I think is remarkable about this man and his streak is the fact that he used a little bit of muscle power.
Well, you know what? Before I get into an interesting story about Gordie Howe, I just want to let everybody know the Sports Exchange can be heard on iHeartRadio, Apple, Spotify, Google, wherever you get your podcasts. Also, please hit the subscribe button. We're striving for 1,000 subscribers. So if you have a hard time doing that, all you need to do is just go to youtube.com, look for South Florida Tribune, and hit the subscribe button. And once again, our goal is 1,000 subscribers. We would appreciate you helping us get there to continue to grow the platform. With that said, George, remember the time you and I were over at the Pontiac Silverdome? I had a busted up arm. I had Gordie Howe. I had a nice picture with Gordie Howe with him, and he gave me an elbow right when my arm was in a sling. It was great. It was cool at the Pontiac Silverdome. And then, and of course, I met Gordie on a couple of occasions. You know what? I think Wayne Gretzky would not have scored as many goals in the physical era, but Ovechkin could have adapted that because he's more of a physical player. I'm not taking away, okay, from the player Gretzky is. So let's just set the record straight there, okay? But what Ovechkin has done is unbelievable. Now, I also read something today that the owner, Ted Leonsis, said he will not do a rebuild while Ovechkin was chasing Gretzky's record. So more power to Ted Leonsis. He did a rebuild once that actually landed him Ovechkin. So, you know, I guess you can say it's just a good feel-good story where you're rooting for somebody. And you know what? I'm going to go from one feel-good story to another one, and that's this, okay? Going out on top, okay? To me, waiting to happen. Now, the person I'm referring to is Lionel Messi had a goal and a 3-0 win in a World Cup semifinals over Croatia. Argentina will face France on Sunday. My top going out on top moment was watching John Elway and the Denver Broncos defeat the Atlanta Falcons in Super Bowl 33 in Miami. Then I asked him a question about him forcing his way out of Baltimore with Robert Irsay, and he smiled at me. Now, I should point out that Messi, you know, figured that his team ate humble pie when they suffered a 2-1 loss to Saudi Arabia, which was ranked 51st in the world at this time. If you guys are like I am, who in their right mind would not root for Lionel Messi to win his first World Cup? This is a great story. And again, I love being a part of the Elway one. But Lionel Messi here. Now, what could be interesting for South Florida people, however, is that once he's done in Argentina, there's talk that he would come to Inter Miami. That could be a story for another day. Rick, some thoughts about Lionel Messi?
Well, he's one of the great soccer players of all time. You know, you have Ronaldo, you got Maradona, of course, Pelé, Messi. You know, he's done everything. He hasn't won that championship yet. You know, he's kind of like Peyton Manning, where he had all these great years, all these big numbers, and what eluded Peyton was that Super Bowl, and he got 2. And so I think this is Messi's to lose. And I mean, they're in the finals. I'm rooting for him. He seems like a nice guy, one of the great soccer players of all time, one of the great athletes of our generation up there with Ronaldo. And I'm rooting for him. I love to see him win it because that's just pretty much the only thing that's missing in his resume is a World Cup.
Yeah, just an amazing story, Jacob.
Yep. And if he goes to Inter Miami, and just to say this, I'd be very glad that the only thing he had, he'll have it. And if he goes to Inter Miami, I have no question in my mind that he's going to be pulling a David Beckham and buying basically buying a soccer team. That's what he's aiming. To me, that's his aim is next. Is once he's gone, he's going to be getting into business ventures like that. What's up, bro?
Yeah, you know what? That's amazing too, because once you've done everything in your respective leagues, or Premier League and all these other ones out there, you come to America strictly for business. Now, who was that? Drago, whatever his name, Dragan Simkavich or whatever. You know who I'm talking about? The guy that played for the LA Galaxy. He came here for like a couple years and then went back. They all do.
I don't remember the name myself.
Yeah, he had a weird name.
Yeah, he did. Different name. Don't know. But he did play for the LA Galaxy. These guys here, when they've done everything they can do, I'll take a guy overseas at 75% because they're better than a lot of the American players we have, and 100% because of the way that they play a much better brand of soccer overseas. But these guys, if they're going to MLS, they're in it for the business, not like they're going to get paid a boatload of money playing on our soil compared to everybody else. So, like I told you, I am rooting hard for Lionel Messi. I can't watch the game, however, because my other half and I are going to be covering the Jacksonville Jaguars and Dallas Cowboys. I'm already recording the Lions game on my DVR anyhow. But you know what?
Don't worry. Rick loves soccer.
Oh yeah, I stay up till 3 a.m. watching a 0-0 score. Love it.
I'll be paying attention to it, but at least I don't have to score watch with the Lions because we'll have it recorded. All right, Jeremy, give us your take about Lionel Messi.
I mean, what's there more to say? He is one of the greatest soccer players who's ever played. You know, and Rick mentioned them all. If he comes to America, yeah, it's a business venture. He's going to pull a David Beckham and end up getting into ownership. I mean, that's the next logical step for him.
Okay, Brett?
Yeah, no, all I'm going to say about this one is when the gunslinger Peyton Manning went to his final Super Bowl, I was definitely a Broncos fan. When the Mamba Kobe went to play his final game against Utah, definitely rooting for the Lakers. On Sunday, I'm definitely going to be cheering for Messi in Argentina and hope he gets that storybook ending.
George?
Yeah, I'm hoping the best for Lionel also. I had the chance and the opportunity to cover Trevor Francis when he came over from Great Britain.
I remember
and played for the Detroit Express.
Right.
And the Detroit Express unfortunately folded, but Trevor Francis created quite a buzz here in town. They played at the Pontiac Silverdome. And, Keith Furphy, Ken Furphy was the coach, Andy Chapman. They had some nice players there. And I agree with you, Scott. I remember those days when they would bring those international stars over to the United States and the NASL and create a buzz, create the opportunity for America to fall in love with the world sport. And we don't have a team in MLS. Detroit's been making efforts to get a team, but it fell through. Unfortunately, the stadium was not adequate for the MLS commissioner and the expansion committee. So we have not been able to land one. But we have some second-tier teams that are doing quite well, selling out games in a city called Hamtramck, which is near Detroit. And we got some great soccer going on in the area. So, it's the world game, and I'm pulling for him too, Scott.
Yeah, the John Elway memory, watching him win in Miami, my first Super Bowl, seeing him win on top was incredible. But I got to tell you something interesting about our coverage of Inter Miami this summer. They had a guy named Gonzalo Higuain. I'm not good with pronunciations. And, this guy was unbelievable. His press conference, the way Inter Miami set it up, I didn't know if they were agitating me because I didn't know Spanish. But this guy starts out, he does his press conferences in Spanish. Rafa Cabrera, would be the interpreter. And then I'm asking questions, and it's like me, all right, you go ahead and translate for me, Rafa. Gonzalo doesn't. At the end, well, I had to do it in Spanish. So now I'm fighting at the end. This guy knew English, and I felt like he played me for a cotton-picking fool, and all of us American people out there. But you know what? Here's the interesting part about that whole scenario, though. When we put it on our recording, put it on our South Florida Tribune YouTube channel, this thing here got over 600 and some hits on our YouTube channel. So people don't understand how popular these soccer farm sports are. Look at South Florida Tribune YouTube channel. Look under Gonzalo Higuain. Sorry, folks, don't unsubscribe because I can't pronounce these names because that's
spell it out in the chat in the comment thing where you can comment back to people and I'll say it for you.
Yeah, well, that's okay. All I can tell you is, folks, don't beat me up on the pronunciation. All I know is Gonzalo got our platform over 600 hits, and he's smart, man. Just speak Spanish for guys like me from the Motor City can't even understand anything. But nevertheless, okay, when you talk about these players coming to the United States, and there's some good ones that come here, by the way. It's amazing. So I'll be interesting to see if they get Messi. Gonzalo Higuain was a great guy to work with and a heck of a player too, mind you. So, again, I have nothing but positive to say about soccer. And I wish I could see the game, but I'll be paying close attention to that version of football while I'm covering the actual pigskin 5 hours north of I-95.
And he'll love it when you can pronounce his name.
You know what? I struggle with it. I really do. I'll have to shoot Rafa an email and say, Rafa, you know what? I have to figure out how to do your pronunciations here. Although I will say one other thing that was interesting too, that isn't so far off from this. When I first started covering the Miami Marlins, they had a lot of foreign players that they had somebody speak Spanish and then the American version of it, and they did it in both ways. George, I don't think you had that much of a problem in Detroit compared to what I have to deal with here in Miami with the Marlins. So
no, we did.
I was lost in space with some of those pronunciations and the thing where they did it both back and forth. So, hey, nevertheless, if I'm talking too much about it, good luck. Good Lionel Messi, you get this cruiser for you. All right, well, let's talk about the Heisman Trophy. Rick and I kind of talked about it a little bit last night, and that it is a farce. 4 finalists were quarterbacks: Stetson Bennett of Georgia, C.J. Stroud, Ohio State, Max Duggan, TCU, and Caleb Williams, USC. Now, I will say one thing. Caleb Williams gets an A for sense of humor because he got the Heisman hardware, and he said, you guys get to play in the playoffs, and I don't get to do it. So, and he'd probably be a favorite to win it next year. So, Rick, let's talk about the Heisman Trophy process or lack thereof.
Or you mean the quarterback MVP award trophy? Because that's pretty much what it's become. It's like the NFL. You ever notice that the MVP in the NFL, it's always a running back or a quarterback, and that's what the Heisman is. It's pretty much 99% quarterback and the rest running back, and that's it. I've only seen I saw Charles Woodson win it. That was rare because he beat Peyton Manning, who everyone thought he would win it. Desmond Howard won it, and that's pretty much it that I can think of. Everyone else have been running backs and quarterbacks, so it's like I didn't even know it was going to be on that night, to be quite honest. And I pretty much knew Caleb Williams would win it. I'm surprised that Stetson, the Bennett guy from Georgia, that he came in last. I thought he'd be like number 1 or number 2. I mean, my goodness, what else do you have to do? You're a walk-on, and look, and he's taking his team to the championship.
He lived off of I think Stetson's the greatest Georgia quarterback they've ever had. I really do. But he lived off of a really, really, really good defense. Yeah,
but he should have been up there. But
maybe he did, but you know what? And I agree with it that defense with Georgia is incredible. But for this guy to win a national championship and follow it up with another undefeated season, it's unreal. I remember.
Greatest. I'm saying I'm living here in Georgia. Greatest Georgia quarterback ever. And I'm just being honest with that. But it's like people are going to live. They're going to live off the idea. They're going to think about just how tough that defense is. Yeah. Just ridiculous. It's like literally Tennessee was out of this world in offense, held them 13 points.
Yeah, I mean, I'll never forget. I had a nice conversation with Charles Woodson, a non-quarterback, and he had Desmond Howard. We just need to see more of that. We just can't see.
Yeah, I want to see a tackle win it. I mean, remember Orlando Pace when he had those pancake sacks, and why didn't he win the Heisman? He was like the most dominant defensive player of that year. He didn't get no votes. I think he should have gotten the Heisman. So it's just the same thing. It's always going to be a quarterback or running back. And it's like it gets devalued lesser and lesser and lesser because someone's going to win it every year. And if I want to see a tackle win. If not, I really don't care about who wins the Heisman.
Well, amazingly enough, I didn't watch it till the next morning when my wife had it on. Otherwise, I really didn't care either. Mel Farr Jr. summarized it the best last night on Inside the Picks, and he said, you know what, it's an ESPN award now, the way they hype it up and build it up. So, Jacob, give me your total thoughts about the Heisman.
Well, one good thing about Stetson Bennett is he definitely is more likely to look like he got drafted to Vietnam. So he just has such an old looking face. But you know something though? He's going to go down and as far as this, it's like, I don't care that he got last place. He's going to go down in Georgia's history. He's possibly going to get 2 rings. He's going to go down into that. that would have been a icing on the cake if he would have gotten it, if he would have gotten the Heisman. But in the end, he's going for a second ring. There's very few that ever get that. Very, very few. And he's going to go into the NFL probably like a fifth rounder. He'll be out in 2-3 years and do something else. He's just not an NFL quarterback, but good for him to be the best. Being the best Georgia quarterback, I mean, that can last 30, 40 years.
Yeah, no, not the worst thing in the world. All right, Jeremy, the Heisman Trophy.
It is a farce. I mean, there are, like last year, you could have gave it to Sauce Gardner if you wanted to, because he was the most dominant cornerback we've seen since prime time in college.
Right.
He didn't give up a touchdown since his junior year of high school. How many guys can say that as a corner? Then you got, what about Aaron Donald that year? How dominant he was. You got all sorts of defensive players that have been good, but it took a player like Charles Woodson to be the only purely defensive player that won it, because guess what? He didn't just play defense. He played wide receiver. He returned punts. He returned kicks. He did everything for Michigan that year.
Good point. All right, Brett.
Yeah, I think it's about time for somebody on defense to win it. At least next year, let's make it a non-quarterback.
Yeah.
Since 2010, we've had 2 non-quarterback winners.
And they were both running backs.
Smith.
Oh, I forgot about Devonta Smith.
It's Devonta Smith. Yeah, but so I would definitely want to see some guys on the defensive end get some love there next year, and hopefully just a couple more overall, at least finalists in the next couple years. Like, I don't even need them to win. Can I just see them at least in like the top 3? Like, we're thinking about you.
Oh, last year we had one in the top 3.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, but Brett, I'm
Hudson.
Yeah, but I want to piggyback off of Brett's point. Okay, right now, at least get a non-quarterback in there as a finalist or 2. And that's where I'm going with you, Brett, on this, okay? At least make it look like there's a puncher's chance that you got something else other than a quarterback. Yeah. I mean, I would have been satisfied to get running back in this year just in the Final Four. But 4 quarterbacks, seriously? And let me say this before I turn it over to George Eichhorn, okay? Just because you win the Heisman Trophy doesn't mean you're destined to have a great career. I can tell you how many Heisman flops there have been, and we might use that as a separate topic for another day, but not today. I just think to see 4 finalists that are quarterbacks is a joke, George.
I'm just saying.
Yeah, wasn't it exciting to see Johnny Manziel there on the stage? to your point, Scott, a lot of the flops were sitting on the stage there. Okay.
Yeah.
And Blake Corum of Michigan gets penalized. Oh well, he's sorry he got hurt in the to the last game of the year. So he slipped out of the top 4. He didn't no invitation to New York City. And I understand that, the thing is, you guys got to remember, you called it an ESPN award. No, this is voted on by the college broadcasters and writers. So it's not just a group of guys sitting in ESPN headquarters that's picking this. Okay, so if your beef is with the network, you're wrong. These are the writers across the country. That's a very prestigious vote. So I'm just saying that it's a wider audience, okay, that does this and narrows it down. They don't announce enough of the voting process, but these are guys that cover the sport game in and game out. Those are the guys I'm disappointed with, and ladies that vote.
Who was number 2 last year in the Heisman voting?
I don't remember.
Aiden Hutchinson.
There you go. Yeah.
Remember? Because number 3 was C.J. Stroud, and he goes, how the hell did you get here? I sacked you 6 times.
Oh. Desmond Howard had some words last year with him on the stage, I remember. Stroud.
Right. Yeah. Well, good thing. Well, Smoking Jeremy, we always get laughs and information out of you. That's the one thing that's very consistent.
Yeah, I have a little faith now in the Heisman voting, just a little, but I want to see a defensive player,
win it,
a kickoff returner, somebody different instead of a quarterback, running back.
Hey, though,
a kicker.
Smoking, thanks for bringing up Aiden Hutchinson. Appreciate it. All right, well, all I can tell you is
forgot about him.
All I can tell you is, please, next year, I don't want to see 4 quarterbacks in New York.
No.
I struggle to watch it anyway. So just make it at least give me a reason to watch it because you didn't do that this year. All right, well, you know what? I had to get to an NFL topic, and this is the one I've chosen to get to. Are the Detroit Lions 6-7? They are a feel-good story after a 1-6 start. We know that the Jared Goff, Matthew Stafford trade is turning out to be a win-win situation. The Rams got their Super Bowl out of it, and the Lions may have Goff for another couple of years or so. Rick, I'll let you start it off.
The Lions are an amazing, amazing story. I've been on Dan Campbell, not a fan, and he's proven me wrong this year. They've done great. They started out really bad, and they're like the hottest team right now in the NFL. And Goff, I mean, he should be like comeback player of the year. You know what he's done. I mean, he was tossed on the side like garbage by the Rams. Went to the worst team at that time, and it looked like poor Jared Goff. His career is over. And boy, I was wrong about that. This is probably one of his best seasons he's having. He looks great out there. He's in command. He's in control. It looks like he's having some fun there in Motown, and they're a great story. And it's nice to see the Lions doing well. You know, for so long, they've been really bad. A lot of bad head coaches, just bad play, just dumb. Way they would lose games would be dumb. But they're putting it all together, and they got a chance of making the playoffs, and I hope they do, and I hope they make some noise. So I'm happy for them.
And actually, they'll be playing in Charlotte on December 24th over, was it Bank of America Stadium, I believe?
Yep, and that's going to be a great game because both those teams are in the hunt. Even though the Panthers, they're still in, and they could win their division. So that's another amazing story that's happening here in my city.
Hey, I'll get, like I said at the outset, I'll be able to see the game because the best part about living in Southern Florida, you should get a lot of the New York teams, and the Lions are playing the Jets. So we're recording it. So that'll be working out. It worked out well when the Giants were in town, too. I didn't have to go to a sports bar to really watch it. So, yeah, it's okay. I'll be in Jacksonville, but I'll be hitting the TV, hopefully, if the Lions win. If they don't, then it's an easy delete. Okay, Jacob.
At first, when I saw Dan Campbell, I thought it was going to be Matt Patricia went to a gym. But the biggest thing is he won me over from like minute one. Really, it's like because there is something besides X's and O's with coaches. It is intangibles. It is what that you can tell that he's going to have, that the players are going to have his back and he's going to have theirs, and that is big in a locker room. This is what a lot of fans don't understand. I mean, one of my final points is going to be about fans, of course, but it's like. But the thing is, he's got that. And I said from the beginning, 3 to 4 wins first year, 6 to 7 second, and playoffs next. And it's like I love – but I'll tell you this, the job he's done with Jared Goff, unreal. It just means he believes. He's not listening to fans, idiot fans. He's not listening to knee-jerk, emotional nitwit fans. He knows what he's doing. He's played the game. He has an understanding, and he is basically he's a motivator. And you know something? Sometimes you need that. Sometimes you need that. It's like, what's his X's and O's? His X's and O's are he's aggressive. He's an aggressive player. He's got a bunch of 4th downs he's gone for. That's his game. And you need all kinds in a certain way. And he's going. Guess what? He's about to get a big extension really, really soon. About to get an extension. I have no question in my mind he's going to get an extension, and he deserves it. And Detroit, doesn't matter if I'm right or wrong about this year. Next year, they're going to get even better and better.
Yeah, and I think the thing is, anytime you play for a coach that really wants you and believes in you, and Sean McVay was losing that belief in him, change of scenery does work out well, and it definitely has paid some dividends.
Sean McVay, I'm going to just say this real quick. The thing about Sean McVay is he is somebody that the personalities are different. I get Dan Campbell's personality. I'm somebody who, in a simple game of fantasy, I will tear apart my team to start over before the season's over to see if I can make a comeback if things are going. Dan Campbell's willing to do that. Dan Campbell is willing to, he doesn't like to lose, but he's willing to take the losses to learn and to everything. It's my spirit animal. Sean McVay, a loss basically probably gives him to get the milk and magnesia. He hates to lose. He despises it, And it's like, and then he just basically gives up on the people that are there. I mean, I think Sean McVay's a tremendous coach, but if you want a guy that's going to have all the patience in the world to build something, you want Dan Campbell.
Yeah, well, not only that, I had a chance to watch a clip of Dan Campbell on the Pat McAfee podcast.
Another star.
And I did you see that one too, where he talked about the Penei Sewell catch and the wave and all that?
Yeah.
Oh, it was just hilarious. So, leave it to Danny. He knows how to loosen things up. And you know what? We got to turn over to Smoke, and I want to see what you have to say. We all know how you feel about the Lions and all your kneecap podcast business, but tell us where we stand here with the Lions 6-7 in the trade.
I said all along this preseason, and I almost lowered it because of how bad we started. But then I looked at who we had injured. When you have all your playmakers injured and you have a game manager quarterback that needs playmakers in order to be successful, you're going to have a lull. You're going to have a low. We had 6 defensive guys out for 3 games, and we had Amon-Ra, DJ Shark, Josh Reynolds was limpy. He still played, but he wasn't 100% at the time. DeAndre Swift was out. Thank God we had Jamal Williams healthy because he's leading the league in touchdowns still.
Right.
And lo and behold, Jared Goff is actually sitting at almost 65%. He's thrown for 100 yards more than he did last year in less games. He's also thrown 22 touchdowns, 2 on the road, 20 at home, and first with at home versus every quarterback in the league right now. He has more touchdowns in his home stadium than any other QB out there. And he only has 7 interceptions. So he's lowered his interceptions. He lowered the fumbles. And I've said all along, all he had to do was not get below 62%, throw 2-to-1 touchdown ratio, and he would be successful in Detroit. And he's doing it.
Doesn't hurt. He has a pretty good offensive coordinator compared to where he was a year ago, right? Smoking.
Yeah, and it doesn't hurt that he has an O-line that's almost as good as the 2018 Rams there. Because that's the other thing. You look at the Rams in 2018, they had the 3rd-ranked O-line. In 2019, they were 29th. In 2020, the last year he was there, they were 27th in the league. That's a huge disparity. And then he went from Todd Gurley to nothing at running back because he had Todd Gurley and C.J. Anderson and then whoever the third guy was that hardly ever sniffed the field until that Super Bowl. And that Super Bowl, they did not lose because of Jared Goff. Because if I remember right, Brandon Cooks was wide open with nobody in front of him and dropped a pass. And then there was 2 drop passes in the end zone.
Well, another thing worth mentioning is the Lions invested into that wide receiver core. They added DJ Chark as well. So, they've definitely made some upgrades. I will turn over to Brett Gardepy, who, by the way, in the Packers has been on the wrong end of these results here. Sorry, Brett. So give us a Packer perspective of what you see with the Lions.
What's nice with Jared Goff is he still has 2 years, about 40-some million left on his contract. All right, so I think that Jared Goff is turning a corner with the Lions. I think he's actually a good quarterback. I think he's not going to be elite. He's not going to elevate talent to win you games by himself, but I think he still is a good quarterback. But if he shows signs of regression, there's no dead cap or anything to release him after this year, I believe. Like, they can cut him for almost nothing.
It only saves $10 million to cut him next year. It's 2024 where they can save 100% of his salary.
2024. So what's nice that's kind of nice though, because now it's like, all right, you still got a couple of years, and if it works out, great, give him that extension. If not, overall, I really like where the Lions are. They're a nice young team on the rise. I love Hutchinson. He's freaking fantastic. He's very well going to be in that top three of defensive rookie of the year. I'm not sure if, like I said, Sauce will end up losing that one, but if he does, I think it very well could be Hutchinson that beats him out. I think in the next 3 to 5 years, it could very well end up being the Lions being one of the teams in the running for one of the best teams in the NFC North. Because the Packers are obviously, they're probably about, if they haven't already aged out of that window. They're about to, unless if Jordan Love all of a sudden steps in and starts dominating right away.
Oh, yeah, right.
Yeah,
I didn't want to
He looked
say
pretty
it.
good. He looked pretty
ain't
good at
winning
the
a
last
single
game.
with the Packers.
Jacob,
for
he
the
looked pretty
quarter.
good.
For a quarter.
I would say I'm not the highest on Jordan Love. I think he played well considering the circumstances and everything, but I'm not going to run out and say he's the greatest because he threw a touchdown pass to Christian Watson when
Thank you.
that was Christian Watson more so running a 4-3 and just burning every defender in his path. But no, I think the Lions have a very real shot at being the best team in the NFC North within the next 3 to 5 years if they make all the right moves. I'm very high on them. Even as a Packer fan, I hate to say it. And listen, even if we start sucking, the Lions start doing good, I'm still going to talk smack to Jeremy every time we play. But I actually am very high on them.
That's okay. The one thing that I should tell Jacob, George, and Rick is Brett and Jeremy. Brett and Jeremy came from Empire Sports, and I was able to add them to our team. So having them both on tonight's show is pretty cool stuff. All right, George, you've been patiently waiting. So, and you've been at more games than any of them. So
I get a kick out of you, my friend Brett. In the next 3 to 5 years, come on, Detroit's ready to win it, the division next year, probably. All due respect to our friend Brett, I don't mean to burst your bubble, but the Lions are just at the cusp of it right now. And Dan Campbell reminds me a lot of Bill Collier. Bill was such a successful coach with Pittsburgh, another Rust Belt city, did a great job there. I mean, Campbell's got the city by his finger right now. He's having fun with it. He's intense. He is a character man. He knows how to play the media well. And he has the respect in the locker room. Like Jeremy said earlier, the players, everybody's buying in. And Campbell is just doing a great job right now. Of course, Goff is the main reason why, but it's a team effort. It's Hutchinson, the defense, it's Goff, it's the offense, and it's all coming together right now. And who knows? I mean, Lions have what would be the easiest schedule out of the contending teams for those final couple wild card spots. So the Lions could control their own destiny if they win out. I think they got it.
Well, I can tell you one thing. They've been a national story all week on ESPN, and I've enjoyed the comments coming from all the different shows that I actually watch because I like to gauge reaction a little bit in terms of respect level around there as well. So I don't want to get too gung-ho with them, but they, like you say, George, they have 4 winnable football games. They really do, albeit 3 of them, I believe, 3 are on the road, but yeah, right. But they get the Bears at home as well, so it'll be interesting. So, all in all, I think we've been really strong all night. So, what I'm going to do now is, as a custom, we're going to have our parting shots. Rick, lead it off.
Well, we've been talking about football. We've been talking about Dan Campbell, and great story. And the awards are coming up. We're talking about the Heisman, but I'm excited to see who's going to win Coach of the Year. And I think that we should have co-winners for Coach of the Year in the NFL, and it should be Steve Wilkes and Dan Campbell. The reason why is because those teams started out horribly. One of them had a coach fired, and both those teams are in the playoff hunt. Panthers could win their division. Steve Wilkes just came out of there. Matt Rule was a disaster. 49er fans showed up to Charlotte, and they're playing great. They had a great win against Seattle, and we've been talking about the Lions, about the intensity of Dan Campbell, and who I said was a complete farce, but he's proven me wrong. If I was voting, I'd love to see co-coaches of the year in the NFL. To me, it's Steve Wilkes and Dan Campbell as my coaches of the year in the NFL.
Yeah, and you know what? Hopefully Steve Wilkes gets a full-time job with the Panthers. That's a personal opinion. All right, Jacob.
Dear Chicago, and I'm talking Bears fans. The ones I've loved for so long, 38 years now. Let me say this part here. Got one of the most dynamic quarterbacks that we've ever seen in our lifetime. But you want to know what your issue is? Your issue is you're treating him like a circus act. Everything, you love your 50-yard touchdown runs, which, it's beautiful to watch. You love his nice long throws, which the Bears, I just found out, are number 1 in dynamic plays, thanks to him. It definitely is not Nathan Peterman. But understand something here. He's from Kennesaw. I live here in Georgia. This guy is single. He has a single-minded thing to win, and right now, he hates this losing. You don't seem to care. You don't seem to care about the thing because you're turning him into a circus act. You just want to be entertained. I saw that with the whole thing in the last 4 years before that. You got pissed off when there was winning and if you were bored. This happens to you. But guess what now? You've got a guy who wants to win. Yeah, you love to win with him, but he'll want to leave if they don't win soon. And you're not going to see it, and you're going to get ambushed. But you've been warned. You've been warned. I've been warning it over and over. I love the guy. Everybody thinks I hate him. No, I love the guy. I love his competitiveness. I love that he wants to win. But you Bears fans don't deserve him.
And obviously you're referring to Justin Fields, right?
You darn straight.
Okay, fair enough. All right, Jeremy.
Well, mine is for all those Detroit fans that were saying Goff is done, he has a noodle arm, he can't throw the ball deep. What were those first 2 touchdown passes he threw this last week? Oh, yeah, 38 yards through the air for a 41-yard touchdown to Jamison Williams. He goes, why'd you guys draft such a fast receiver? He'll never hit him. Evidently, they didn't pay attention to 2018, especially that Monday Night Football game when Jared Goff out-Mahomes Pat Mahomes. He had 6 more deep passes than Mahomes had. He had 2 less interceptions, and they won that game in overtime. Do you guys remember that game? The highest scoring Monday Night Football game in Monday Night Football history. And we're not just talking about the Super Bowl era. We're talking about as long as Monday Night Football was on. That being said, chillax. Let things progress. It's the second year of a rebuild, and we're right where we should be. I said all along this team would probably be a middling team hovering around 500 through towards the third quarter of the season, and that's right where we're at. We're 6-7. We're almost 500. All they got to do is stay the course, run the ball, set up the play action pass, hit people deep. Shark was a decoy to begin with, but I don't think he got here as healthy as he is now. Those 4 weeks that he missed was huge for him, and he's playing well. So enjoy it. Don't always ask for a change when a change isn't needed.
Very good. All right, Brett.
Oh man, I might as well talk about my team, the Packers. So I'm very much understanding the fact that we're kind of stuck trying to run it back and try to go to the playoffs next year. Nobody's trading for Aaron Rodgers, and that have a $59 million cap hit to trade him. We have an interesting decision this offseason. This is the one I want to refer to. For the love of everything holy, make sure we keep Aaron Jones and actually use him next year. For anybody that doesn't know, we can save about $11 million to cut him in cap space. So this offense is really ugly without him, and we definitely need him next year if we're going to try to make a run. So even if it's cutting him and then signing him to a longer term deal with a lower hit, just make sure we retain Aaron Jones this offseason.
Okay, George.
Well, my parting shot is the Detroit Pistons. The 8-22. Yes, thank you. They beat the Charlotte Bobcats tonight.
Hornets.
Hornets. Whatever they're called. 8-22 Pistons. Kate Cunningham, their top prize guy, 21-point average per game, out for the rest of the year. Shin surgery. The sad sack Pistons continue to flounder. I'm hoping that things look better in the next couple of years. But boy, oh boy, they're snake bit again. Their star player is out. Good luck drawing fans to Little Caesars Arena the rest of the year, Pistons. And Dwayne Casey, I'm not sure you're the right man anymore.
Okay. Well, I'm going to New England, and I'm going to talk about it's a good time to be a Boston sports fan. It really is. You know why? Boston Celtics are 22-7, and they have the best record in the league despite a coaching change. And the Boston Bruins are 23-4-1. My goodness, this city's had a lot of championships, especially in the new millennium. And with these two teams playing as well as they are, maybe the Red Sox are losing free agents a little bit. The Patriots are around mediocrity. Who knows? Maybe they might get in the playoffs. But I'll tell you one thing: if you're a Celtics fan and you're a Bruins fan, at the TD Garden Arena, you have a lot of good. You're getting your money's worth with the play that both your hockey team and basketball teams are. And Boston came pretty close to regaining the lead in all-time championships over the LA Lakers, but the only thing got in the way of them was the Golden State Warriors. So more power to the Boston fans and more power to you guys for an excellent show tonight. Glad that we were able to get Jeremy involved as well. I didn't know if he was tied up with his sideline responsibilities with his Lions stuff, so he came a little bit late in the game, but he came at the right time nevertheless, because the topics were right there when we needed him to be. So
you can thank Will Vogel because he goes, "Hey, Scott just went live."
Well, yeah. Okay. Well, I can thank whoever I want, but nevertheless, we're glad you made it anyway. So, but that said, this concludes this edition of the Sports Exchange. We have one more episode the rest of the year, and that'll be next Wednesday night. We're going to be talking about the big sports headlines in 2022. I'm sure a lot of us will be on here with us. Brett, obviously, you have a date with Fire Up Wisconsin with Candy Ebling, Eric Katz, and yes, Mr. Rick Curdy. So, meanwhile, great show tonight. Enjoyed having all 6 of you on. First time I've done a show with 6 people. And I have to tell you, it didn't look that bad. So, you never know. We could be adding 6 people to the party. And to me, it suits me fine. The more voices we get on, the more our followers can have over there. So, before I turn it over to you guys, let people know where you get a hold of, since we have a little bit more on our end. I'll just say this: the Sports Exchange can be heard on iHeartRadio, Apple, Spotify, Google, or wherever you get your podcast. Excuse me. And please hit the subscribe button. I believe it's the red button on your screen, or just go to youtube.com, because here at the South Florida Tribune, we're striving for 1,000 subscribers, and we need all the help and support that we can. We do a lot of good broadcasts on site, as well as the streams that you're seeing right now. We get it a lot of places. Our website is www.southfloridatribune.com. You can email us at southfloridatribune@gmail.com, and you can follow us on Twitter at Tribune South. But that said, I'll go around the horn, let everybody else provide their contact information. Rick, lead it off.
You can find me on my website, www.charlottebats.com. We have a petition on there. Please sign it. We're trying to bring Major League Baseball to Charlotte, North Carolina. I'm on Facebook at Charlotte MLB, Charlotte Bats Baseball. I'm on Instagram as Charlotte Bats, and I'm on Twitter, Charlotte Bats Baseball. LinkedIn under Rick Curdy. If you have any comments or questions, you can email me at cltbatsbaseball@gmail.com.
All right, Jacob.
On Sunday nights, Basket Bros got Scott with us, for the Basket Bros. Monday nights, now brand new show starting this coming Monday. The Pundit Views, going to be all interviews, one-on-one interviews. Going to be with sideline people and with the sports and entertainment. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Tuesday nights during the season, Confidential. Confidential, that's going to be, but it's not 11 o'clock anymore. Wednesday nights, tonight was a triple header, but normally a double header with this. Thank you, Scott, was on with us. And this. And this show also, Sports Exchange. Thursday nights, I'm away from the Pundit, and I do with Yin and Yang with TJ Sanson. Good show, has to do with politics, has to do with film, has to do with psychology, lots of different other things going on in theater. And then when I'm invited, I'm on the gauntlet.
Okay. Jeremy?
Well, you can find me on Fire Up Michigan on Mondays. You can find me occasionally here for the Sports Exchange on Wednesdays. You can find me on Inside the Pigskin every now and then, depending on when Scott needs me. I go wherever he needs me. Why? Because I write for the South Florida Tribune under the Motor City Tribune, and I just love talking sports. They also can find me with my podcast, which is also being presented by Sideline Sports as well now, Kneecap Biting with Smoking Jeremy B on YouTube. You can also find me with my writings at the Motor City Tribune and with these guys. I love talking football.
Yeah, and you're good at talking it, and you're good writing about it. I love reading your stories. They keep it simple, stupid, or keep it short and sweet, however you want to.
I like keep it short and sweet because I
like
to be
stupid.
Well, either way, he writes well, so you guys can debate that. Since we talked about debates earlier on Pundit, anyways, and I shared a great story with Jacob earlier, which one of these days I'll get into about my endeavors about debating in college. But nevertheless, keep it short and sweet. Read Jeremy; he's good. All right, Brett, go ahead.
You can find me at my podcast, Guardy 3. It's on Spotify and Anchor. Right now I'm covering basketball and professional wrestling, but I do plan on venturing into football soon. Otherwise, you can follow me at Twitter at Brett Gardapi, or Guardy3 has its own Facebook page where if you want to just talk sports, we can do that, or let me know what I can improve with on my podcast. I'm always looking for criticism and positive feedback to continue to improve. So look for me on Spotify, Anchor, and Twitter and Facebook.
And as I mentioned earlier, he stars with Candy Ebling, Rick Curdy, and Eric Katz on Fire Up Wisconsin. All right, George, we'll let you take it away.
Detroit sports broadcasters on the air makes a great Christmas gift. I wrote the book on Detroit sports broadcasting history. So get it. It's on a link to the, we have a link on the sports. And let me start over. We have a link on the South Florida Tribune and the Motor City Tribune. You can read my column and find the link, or you can go to arcadiapress.com, or eBay also has the book. And don't forget, I'm on Monday nights with Scott and Jeremy on Fire Up Michigan. And you can read me in the Detroit Monitor. And as I said, on the Motor City Tribune webpage as well. Scott is in the book. He interviews two greats from all time, Muhammad Ali and Jimmy Connors. And I'm glad that we can be on with you guys tonight, too, on the Sports Exchange.
And I should point out, programming note after the first of the year, we have our version of the Sports Exchange on Wednesday night, keeping that intact. George and I are going to do another Sports Exchange during a day during the week with him and I and a guest, so that we're able to bring in more and continue to let both Sports Exchanges build off of each other. So with that said, great crew tonight. Once again, Rick, Jacob, Jeremy, Brett, George, as always. I want to thank you very much for joining us on this edition of the Sports Exchange. And we will do our final show of 2022 next year. And let me tell you, it's going to be good. We're going to recap a lot of what went on in 22, a lot of the top stories, and we'll have a lot of other things that we're going to heavily prepare for. So meanwhile, thank you very much for joining us, everybody. And you have yourself a great weekend, and we will catch you the next time. God bless and be safe. And once again, happy holidays. Bye-bye.
Good night.
Night.
Bye.